In the desolation of the Serebrianskyi forests, the sound of gunfire echoes like a storm exploding in the midst of silence. A small assault team, just 4 men. They advance in silence. With a trigger lurking around every corner and a trap hidden in every meter, the Ukrainian infantry doesn't back down for a moment. In the lead role were the soldiers of Ukraine's Azov Battalion, who heroically dived into the Russian trenches. The soldiers of this battalion were divided into teams, advancing along the trench line, not knowing what they would encounter. We see 2 Ukrainian soldiers advancing with heavy machine guns. They are moving silently along the trench line. Other soldiers in the battalion are preparing ammunition in the area where the trench line begins. Even rocket launchers are being prepared for firing, so the scale of the operation is quite large. On the other hand, 2 soldiers of Azov Battalion are still in the trenches. They are very careful. One wrong move and they will perhaps prepare the last moment of their lives. This soldier is aware of this and is followed by a few more Ukrainian soldiers. The purpose of this support is to intervene more aggressively in the event of a confrontation with Russian forces who might burst out of any hidden underground bunker in the trench line. Yes, it happens as we predicted. Further along the trench line, the soldiers of the Azov Battalion discover a hidden underground bunker. This bunker is probably surrounded by boards. 2 Azov soldiers are firing from a bunker. An incredible encounter. 2 soldiers of the Azov Battalion immediately take cover and try to dodge the bullets. The soldiers immediately realize that the fire is coming from the bunker. The return fire is not delayed. 2 heroic soldiers of the Azov Battalion start firing towards the inner parts of the Russian trench. In addition to the bursts of gunfire, several grenades are thrown into the Russian trench. The soldiers of the Azov Battalion aim to destroy the Russian troops inside the trench with grenades. Finally, the Ukrainian soldiers reach the entrance to the trench and continue firing. We can hardly count the number of grenades thrown into the trench. The Russian troops, shaken by the explosion of the grenades, continue to return fire. But so far, the advantage seems to be with the Azov Battalion. 2 heroic soldiers of the Azov Battalion, maintaining the same calmness and courage as when they first entered the trench line, move closer to the Russian trench. At the same time, these 2 soldiers keep firing. When they reach the entrance of the trench, these 2 soldiers of the Azov Battalion first aim and then start scanning the inside of the trench without looking. It is understood that hundreds of bullets were fired. If there were any Russian troops at the entrance to the trench, they were probably wiped out by the shells fired by the Azov soldiers. So what happens next? We see that these 2 soldiers from the Azov Battalion continue firing into the trench entrance. But this time, the heroic soldiers of Azov are so close to the entrance of the trench that the sights of their weapons almost penetrate it. Azov probably wants a complete cleanup with this move. They continue firing without aiming. But a bullet from inside the trench wounds an Azov soldier in the shoulder. The soldier, shaken by this unexpected move, staggers backwards. The soldier behind him does not want to leave his comrade wounded in the trench line. He tries to pull him back. At this point in the operation, the soldiers of the Azov Battalion are a bit worried. Especially the soldier in the back carrying the wounded soldier is one of the most worried parties. But the wounded soldier is safely removed from the line of fire. Later, other soldiers of the Azov Battalion, who were preparing ammunition at the beginning of the operation, come towards the area where these 2 heroic soldiers clashed with Russian troops at the entrance of the trench line. This time, the Azov Battalion is the more numerous side. At the end of the operation, the Azov Battalion managed to eliminate dozens of Russian soldiers inside the trench line. After this stunning and breathtaking operation, in the Serebrianskyi forest, the entire trench line is under the control of the Azov Battalion. Azov soldiers control all the trenches in Serebrianskyi. The aim is to determine whether there are any Russian soldiers left behind. After the successful operation, Azov is trying to deploy its troops here. Another striking operation comes from Donetsk. The scene is Novotroitske. The footage begins with a Ukrainian soldier sweeping the Russian trenches established there. Body camera footage shows a large group of Ukrainian infantrymen trying to destroy the Russian trenches in Novotroitske with long-barreled weapons. The location of the firing line looks like a front line from the Second World War. Ukrainian infantrymen are advancing through the trench line, scanning every target they come across in order to gain the advantage. Eventually, they reach a trench line made of planks. This trench line, set in the dirt terrain, initially appears to be abandoned. However, a Ukrainian infantryman must have thought otherwise, because he starts firing ahead of the wooden trench line. After this exchange of fire, the operation begins. Other Ukrainian infantry groups follow the wooden trench line and continue firing from outside the trench. Probably after several hours of operation, all the wooden trench lines are cleared of Russian troops. The Ukrainian infantry later reported that dozens of Russian soldiers had been neutralized. With this operation, the Ukrainian armed forces also captured the Russian trenches in Novotroitske in the Donetsk region and managed to clear almost the entire line established in this settlement of the region. Another operation is also from the Donetsk region. The footage begins with strange moments reflected on the body cameras of Ukrainian soldiers entering the garden of an abandoned house. Ukrainian troops advancing in the garden are very cautious. You can see in the footage how worried they are. This is quite normal, because every Ukrainian soldier in the garden has probably participated in similar operations in the past and faced similar situations. In this operation too, the Ukrainian soldiers are aware that one mistake and they will not be able to go on with their lives. A Ukrainian soldier starts searching for a hidden underground bunker in a garden with a flashlight integrated into his weapon. The reason for this is that Russians usually try to carry out ambush operations by hiding in the garden of abandoned houses or in any room inside the house. For this reason, the Ukrainian soldier wants to draw out the Russian troops from their hiding place in this garden. Continuing to scan with the flashlight, the Ukrainian soldier sees a hole hidden by iron roofing materials. He shines the flashlight into this hole, but there is no one there. The team continues to move through the garden, and this time they see a small shed-like structure. Just as one of them heads for the door, there's a surprise fire from inside. Bingo. Russian soldiers are hiding inside this hut. Fortunately, the Ukrainian soldier retreats without being seriously wounded. After he moves away from the barrack, the other soldiers in the squad get involved. After the Ukrainian soldier moves away, the whole squad starts firing towards the barrack. Probably the barrack is riddled with holes after a long firepower. So if someone is inside, they have no chance of survival. Another group in the squad takes a position to get closer to the barrack. After the gunfire stops for a moment, it's time to check it out. Just as a soldier is about to approach, the Russian soldiers inside the barrack start firing back, and the operation continues. The Ukrainian team continues to fire fiercely towards the barracks. Finally, the Russian soldiers agree to surrender, and the gunfire stops completely. There are probably wounded inside, and the Russians have too little ammunition to last until they get out of the barracks. Therefore, they are forced to surrender. The images reflected on the body cameras of Ukrainian soldiers entering the barracks reveal the shocking truth. There is a corridor inside, which can be considered a bit long. We can see a Russian soldier lying in the corridor. There are rooms on the sides of the corridor. Probably inside these rooms, Russian soldiers who have agreed to surrender are waiting. Ukrainian soldiers are starting to evacuate all Russian troops inside the barracks. First, the wounded. A Russian soldier is seen being transported in humanitarian conditions in a wheelbarrow, accompanied by Ukrainian soldiers. The Russian soldier being taken for treatment is not worried. This is probably because Russian troops know that the Ukrainian army will act in accordance with the Geneva Convention. Other wounded soldiers are also being transported from the scene in wheelbarrows. The operation ends successfully. Ukrainian troops captured the house used by the Russians as a command center and the hut where they were hiding. After this operation, the last stop is Kharkiv Oblast. For this operation, the Ukrainian infantry group was split in two. The objective is to capture a house in a large area where there are many Russian troops. The stakes are high, but the Ukrainian soldiers were confident. Divided in two, the Ukrainian infantrymen surrounded the house and fired first. This probably woke up the Russian troops inside the house. Realizing that the operation had begun, the Russian soldiers started firing back from inside the house. Again, in the images reflected on the body cameras, one of the groups divided into two took action for close intervention. It was reflected in the footage that a soldier from this group took the cover position because there was a Russian soldier behind him. It was indeed a heartbreaking moment. After the Ukrainian soldier took the cover position, he looked across and started firing at the point where the Russian soldier was coming from. The drones hovering in the air were also supporting the Ukrainian infantry, conducting the ground operation. The Russian soldiers had nothing left to do after the second team, which had surrounded the house, narrowed the circle, and merged with the first team. As a result of the operation, it was reported that all Russian troops were removed from the house, and this area was liberated. After liberating the house, the two teams that had captured a large number of Russian soldiers continued the operation and advanced in the area. The advancing teams noticed buildings in a field in front of them. There was a possibility that Russian troops were hiding here too. Scanning these areas one by one, the Ukrainian soldiers again split into two teams and managed to clear the area in a short time. Another incredible operation was successfully concluded. In both Luhansk, Donetsk, and Kharkiv, the Ukrainians had done justice and captured Russian trenches, command posts, and deployment bunkers. After all these operations, more than 100 Russian soldiers were reportedly neutralized, dozens of ammunition confiscated, and many areas liberated from occupation. In short, Ukrainians seem to have done a very clean job in these 3 regions. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to like our videos.